One week there was a gentleman in line. He just told me that he was considering ending his life. The first thing I asked him was, do you know Jesus? Because it felt urgent. I asked him his name, I asked him if I could pray, and I prayed with him. And then the next week we pull up and he's standing there. I got out and I said, hey, it's so good to see you. And I used his first name and he said, I can't believe you remember my name. The first one that is coming to my mind is a gentleman. His name was Charlie. And Charlie was the mayor of one of the homeless camps that was really close by. Charlie was there one week and he overdosed right in the park. And it was devastating. But that week, the group that was doing the food, there were several doctors in the group. And only the Lord knew that. And so they were able to handle the situation very quickly. Charlie left and then we didn't see him for quite a few weeks. 6 or 8 weeks later, we pull up one Sunday and there he was standing there. And it was just Charlie, you're alive. And my words to him were, the Lord's not done with you yet, Charlie. And just to know that he knew where he was and he knew it was not good, that he knew how much we loved him and how much we cared for him and what a miracle it was that those were doctors there that day. He heard those words from us. And unfortunately, Charlie did overdose a few months later and he did die. But to know that we got to have that interaction with him and just assuring him that the Lord wasn't done with him and assuring him that he was loved and that it was a miracle, that Sunday was a miracle, to me is a story I'll never forget.
One of the people that I've connected with most is Mike. Mike was working and then during COVID got laid off. So we navigated the system for unemployment, and he is dyslexic, so he wasn't able to handle that situation very well. And so I said, sure, let's solve this. What's it going to take? 10 minutes, a half hour? And that's where I realized that somebody that wants to work, that knows how to fix stuff, that cares about, having a good life, how hard it was to just try to get unemployment for him, because you had all these forms to fill out. His ID was expired, so that had to get changed. He needed to find all these documents that he didn't have easy access to. But just seeing that he was just I really, really want to do this. I just need some help. Since then, he's been in and out of housing, in and out of jobs, but right now he is housed and he's got a job. So that's just one where you just know so much about that person's life and you've just had so many experiences.
This beautiful, pale skin, red hair, bright blue eyes girl shows up on Sunday and she just stands there. She doesn't speak. She just stands there. When we see a young lady, especially, we are just are you okay? Are you safe? Instantly trying to engage and see if they're okay. And she didn't speak the whole time she was there. Before she left, we prayed over her, put our hands on her. We just prayed for her for whatever was happening. I know this makes me sound crazy, but I remember going home that day and I remember thinking to myself, I felt like I was staring into the eyes of Jesus. Like what you do for the least is easy. It felt like, okay, there's this woman who won't speak to me, so I could dismiss her if I so chose, because she's literally not engaging with me, or any of us that are trying really hard to engage with her, or we can just love her right where she is. The next week we show up and she's there. And she's talking a little bit to us. And she shared with us that her mom had just died and she was going through a very traumatic time. And last week she just couldn't verbalize, that's just where she was. Well, she continued to show up, and we have a volunteer named Rosie who just poured into Zoe. She connected with Zoe for a very long time, helping her with clothing for a job. And then Zoe ended up getting pregnant and losing the baby. And Rosie was right there with her through it all and got Zoe plugged into a Bible study and still connects with Zoe regularly. And so just to see this woman who showed up literally, I think, in shock. She couldn't even speak to us. She just stared at us, to being successful and getting a job, surviving through losing a baby and being homeless and living in a tent, to accepting the Lord and joining a Bible study. To me, that's just mind-blowing. And it's so humbling to know that she showed up on a Sunday in the park, and that's where we were, and that the Lord used Harvest and the people of Harvest to show this girl unconditional love. To me, it's just one of the super encouraging stories. It's hard when you genuinely care about a person and you just see them struggle or make the same mistake over and over again. And everything in you wants to fix it, but you can't. But you can just continue to love them, but it comes with a lot of heartbreak.
There are people down there that just need their interaction, to need to be felt like they are human, like they do matter. So many people that we meet down there just are looking for somebody to talk to for 15 minutes. It's like 15 minutes of safety, some 15 minutes of somebody talking with them, not trying to take their stuff. If you take that little bit of time to talk with somebody and hear their story, then you start to hear echoes of your own story or echoes of other stories where you say, oh yeah, bad things happen to good people, and that these are people that, still deserve respect and care and love and a home.
Sometimes you feel parts of your own story. I think that I made a lot of decisions in my life that were stupid, and I had family that supported me and came alongside me and loved me. So then you just think like, well, that could have been me if I didn't have the support system that I had. And then when you look at that and you think, well, that could be anybody. And it just makes you think, these are someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's sister, someone's brother. They have a someone somewhere that has maybe just left them. I always believe that the Lord meets us right where we are, no matter how far we run. That's the population that we're serving and loving. The Lord hasn't left them. The Lord is waiting for them to latch on to him. And so why would we do anything different?
Harvest Street Mission's really the people. We drive the trailer, Jennifer organizes everything, but it's the people that keep showing up each week. They're the culture. It's all these different people with all these little connections, some of which we don't know anything about, right? When we first started doing this, I thought that she and I were important for it, and now I've realized we're just the means for other people to have those connections and build that culture. The best thing to hear is when they don't say, well, you guys as Harvest need to do something, when their language turns and changes and they say, hey, Harvest, we need to. And I'm like, you're in now. You are Harvest. Harvest is you, which is what we want.
We have a gentleman who goes by Rev, and he plays music, and he shares a message himself. He's got a fantastic story, and he's real about his life, and I think that's what people need, is real. We also have this gentleman, and he just walks up the line and just prays for each person in line. And when John's not there, people are like, where's John? Like, where's the guy that prays, is what they say.
The first week he went through the line, nobody wanted to talk to him. Second week, 1 or 2 people. Now there's 30 people waiting for him to walk down and pray with them. Like, that is just amazing. He just keeps showing up and he's excited to do it. There's a guy from Log Church named Jim. The first couple times he came down, where can I serve? What can I do? And I was like, you know what? We have this table and we have coffee we're doing this week. So now I affectionately refer to that as Jim's table. So now Jim is now connected in because he's got his own sort of space, and he knows he has to kind of shepherd other people through what's going to happen. We could not do it without all of our volunteers. At the end, many people are like, thanks so much for what you do. And we're just like, I just drive the trailer down. Like, if you weren't here, this doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
And that's what is so impactful on us and humbling. The people just keep showing up. When we first were packing meals, it was just in our living room and with our kids. And we're like, line up 35 brown bags. Okay, put a beef jerky in every one, put a sandwich in each one, put a cracker in each one, put a whatever. And at that point, it felt like, oh, it's just us against the world. But once things opened up and people started showing up and then just coming back and coming back and coming back, and everybody kind of finds their place. So I want to be behind a table. I want to help out with underwear. I'm going to, help do garbage. Like, people jump in and see a need and just take it over. And that's been awesome.
We recently got to see a little bit of footage of us serving. Every person was smiling that was serving. Like, it was so cool to see that these volunteers are just have so much joy while they're serving. I think about the time Mike was down there and I said, Mike, what do you need? And he said, I really need a queen size comforter. I go over to my car door, I open up the passenger door, and there's a queen size comforter sitting on the seat. And it turns out that a woman brought it down and she tried to get my attention but couldn't get my attention, and she put it on the seat. And so Mike is like biking off and I'm like, Mike, wait. And he comes over and I'm like, the Lord, like this is the Lord, like he provides, just trying to witness to him. One time somebody early on was like, we need a size 13 sneaker. And this is before we have any much support, we're like, okay, we're going to get this guy a pair of sneakers. Like, is that in the budget type thing? And we pull up and on our picnic table sitting out front is a bag with a pair of sneakers tied in it with a tag that says size 13. It's just like things like that where you're just like, God is in the minutia. Like he is just all in it.
People that come down that would chalk up those things that happen as just coincidence. They see them over and over and they say, I'm starting to have second thoughts. That has been really cool to see people say, that just doesn't just happen. That's something. There's something there, right? And that's just pulling people in. So that's why I often think we might just be there just for our volunteer crew, just to impact their lives, just to, help them. It might be the reason that Harvest exists.
Those conversations have been fun. Just people that are like, I'm not about that whole Jesus thing. And we're like, well, that's okay. That's okay. Thanks for being here. Please keep coming. And then all of a sudden them being like, did you just see that happen? And you're like, I sure did. Did you see it happen? Like, and then just being so bold and like, no, that's the Lord. Like, I don't know where you're standing today, but just for clarity, that is God,
And then they start bringing the examples to you.
Yeah.
You don't even have to point them out to them. They're pointing them out to you, and you're just like, okay.
When life is tough and you're going through a hard time, you're sad, you're fighting with your spouse on a Sunday morning, you go and you serve. And your perspective changes. All of a sudden, you're not so inward focused. I have a mentor who used to call it belly button looking. You're so busy looking at yourself that you miss what's going on around you. And I think about how many times things have been hard. Life has been hard. There's been hard things that have happened or sad things that have happened. And you're like, well, no, we're going to go give back. We're going to give the love. Even if it doesn't feel like I have a lot, we're going to go give it to somebody else. It changes your life. It changes your perspective, and it helps you to not be so inward focused no matter how hard things are, and recognize that there is somebody who's going through something harder than you are. And I think that to me is just propels what we do and would propel anybody. Personally, I believe that.
We find wherever people's eyes are is where their mind and everything else goes. And so we always try to remind people, don't look at the stuff. The stuff is clogging up our garage right now. It's a shed that we, didn't really want, but is out there with stuff. The stuff is just stuff. You have to keep your eyes on the people, and that God will provide the people either behind the table, in front of the table, wherever that he wants you to connect with. And he's either going to grow that person, grow both of you in some way, but you have to keep your eyes off of the stuff and on people.
When you start serving and giving to somebody else for whatever your reason is, you're going to find a community of people that are like-minded, that are doing the same thing. And I feel like the Bible calls us to community, and it's so vital to our lives. And so get plugged in somewhere, doing something for somebody else, and you'll find community.